Hi everybody, welcome to Chapter 9 in our course. We're going to be looking at social media marketing today. I can't stress enough how important this chapter is. When you're watching this video, I want you to know that this is the last iteration of this course that you're going to see as it is now, because it's actually going to move more into what a social media marketing class should look like. Those of you that know me kind of know that I have a background in education. I teach education and business classes, and what I think is fascinating about that is the way that I present social media in an education class compared to a business course. Anytime I teach a business course, I tell people how important it is to be on Twitter, to be on Facebook, to be on LinkedIn. It's the most important thing you can do as a business student. In education, for people that are going into K-12 education, it's the dumbest thing that you can do, because somebody could judge you in an inappropriate way, somebody could think of you as something different because of what you have. So I love teaching chapters on social media because I get to present it one way in a business course and one way in an education course. So try to think of this in terms of what you would want to see in a business course, and the way that social media marketing can actually help you grow and learn what you can do to increase your stability in a business environment. So we know kind of that, the people that use social media changes every day. Facebook is going to continue to grow. MySpace still has a lot of users. I mean, and this is as of 2010. But MySpace's users are mostly for music-related things, but that's certainly declined. Twitter has continued to increase, but this is just a bubble chart of all the people that use social networking. And if you think about it this way, this really is a way that can impact your business and how you look at the way that you can market a product. So I give you some of the social networking campaigns. This is accessible in your book on page 224 and 225, but one of the things that you have to note, the Old Spice Guide campaign, if you have not heard of it, this is something that you should check out on YouTube. It's happened in 2010 during the Super Bowl, but it's probably the most famous, this is probably the most famous social media campaign that ever existed, and it's the one that grew social media advertising. When Cisco tried to launch a new product, they tried to do TED from accounting, and TED from accounting just was, it didn't make any sense. It didn't build and it didn't advance the product anywhere. And this Dave Morin's birthday wish, this was a causes social media networking campaign that really built up how you can use social media to advance charitable and hospital causes. So if you're going to look at any of them, look at the Old Spice Guy. I would hope that you remember that campaign and that ad, and if you don't, it's definitely something worth checking out. So I give you a definition of what social media marketing is and what it looks like. I think it's important to note that it's how different businesses use social media to promote their business, to increase awareness, and also to increase their business goals, which, as we know, is sales, and sales goes to profit. So people are using social media more in business, but they have to have a good plan on how to do it. I could spend an entire course talking about this, but we're visiting it essentially in one chapter, but I'd argue it's probably one of the most important topics. So it's different for marketing than it is for consumer use. You have to know how to use it, and you have to know what the point and the purpose of it is. If you have a business idea that you're trying to put on social media, you have to do it in a way that engages customers and engages people that might be interested, because then that'll cause them to read more and visit your actual website. Just having a Twitter account that links your products, that doesn't do much, but having it linked to something that can promote your products and can spark user interest, that's much more important. You have to know how to use different networks, because if your business grows and somebody's actively engaged on social media with your business, they might be somebody that could work in your company. So try to think of this as a way that can help you with hiring as well. So there's different ways to look at it, but I think it's important you know that it has to have a purpose and it has to have a plan. So I give you a chart and a graph, and as normal, I'll direct you to the page where this is located on. This is on page 226 in our textbook. One of the things that I think is important is, this is a dated graph, it's from 2010, but we see this idea that social media value is growing and it's eventually producing return on investment. So people have been increasing how they budget for it, and that was as of 2010, and we know that 4 or 5 years later, we're much more engaged in it, and it's helping us integrate our visions on what we have for social media. So the other potential graph that you should look at is on page 227. Notice the big idea here, and it's the one thing that I want to highlight to you. It generates exposure for a business, and it gets people to be interested in your business. But you also have to know that, as our headline says, it's not free. You have to have salaries. If people are blogging or developing content, you have to pay them money to do it, and a lot of businesses have now started to have social media experts. As I said in the beginning, I work in education. Your bigger school districts now have a social media consultant that they actually hire to do social media. So, what's effective? What are the things that you can easily use? This is another chart and graph. There's going to be a lot of that this particular chapter. I'll direct you to page 228 for a bubble scatter plot. But you see that one of the things that most people are telling you matters about social media is the notion of blogging. So if you are actively creating a blog for your product that's going to create visibility, and it's going to create the interaction that the user has with you as the person that owns the business. So if you're going to put effort into something, blogging appears to be the area that makes the most sense to promote effort into. So once again, we looked at what worked for larger businesses on page 227. Now we're looking at 229, and we're seeing that the same exact thing holds true. The exposure of your business increases, and that's why you want to do social media marketing. Note that with small businesses, only 17% of people said the business hasn't benefited from social media. I would argue these are people that haven't used this effectively or found a way to make it work for them within the context of their organization. So people are still skeptical of it because cost. When you have an advertising campaign on Facebook where you're buying in and doing user-generated ads, same with YouTube. It's basically done on a click provision, so the more people that click on your ads, the more you pay. So you have to see a return on that investment. And people are still skeptical on this because of the cost. You have to have somebody who's skilled and who's good at it. You have to have somebody who has kind of the extroverted personality that can be arrogant and cocky, that can do it in a professional way to generate a buzz in your business. And if that's not you, you need to find that person who can do it and make social media networking work for you. And then you have to notice this, negative comments. I know firsthand from the industry that my wife is in that a lot of the businesses in her industry will be looking at negative comments for reviews, and they'll have employees post positive reviews to try to make up for the negative comments. When your business is just starting, do you want to disable comments so people can't rate it negatively? Or do you want to enable comments so people can promote it positively? That's your call. I don't have a right answer for it, but it's something you need to consider. So you can use it to motivate your employees if you are active as well. Some organizations, the CEO will actually use Twitter. When that occurs, you should basically do what the big guys do, and if they're using Twitter, that kind of gives you the authority and the right to do it. Some companies are going to have major corporate policies that could hurt you when you're promoting. UPMC is a company that you might see that has massive corporate policies on social media use. You need to make sure that you know and you understand them, but if you're starting your own business, you can set your own policies. But if you're working in an organization, always make sure that you understand what their policies are. So how does it benefit people? I'm looking at this more than anything else, but I think employee engagement is important, because if you have a social media presence as a person and your business has a social media presence as a business, you're going to care how the business looks on social media, and you're going to care how you look on social media. And it grows pride, and it grows engagement in your organization, and it can help significantly. So I see this as a positive, and when you're doing your final projects in this class, consider ways that you can integrate social media in the blog type of site that you're going to be creating. So carefully planned and executed social media marketing strategies are essential. If you read the textbook, they're going to stress this, but you have to make sure you know what you're doing before you start it, because if you just start it and start tweeting or posting posts on Facebook or writing a blog, that can be negative, and it can be construed as you not knowing what you're supposed to be doing and just posting. So I want you to consider the negative outcomes that come with this as well. So we have another graph that I think is important, but I think it's the notion of you should listen, communicate, engage, and collaborate. The key one there is listen, because if you're going to use social media, people are going to contact you and tell you what went wrong. Wouldn't it be great if somebody posted something on what went wrong and you resolved it, and then others could see how quickly it was resolved? So you listen first, communicate back to the stakeholders, engage with them, fix the problem and solution, and then collaborate so that you can help it build and grow. And I think these are all viable techniques that you can do, but you have to have a presence. If you're going to invest the time and energy into this, you have to make sure that you have a presence that makes sense. So this is another graph. I'm going to give you the page number on this because it's a little difficult to see on here. We're looking at page 232, and it's basically telling you what type of people actually will engage in social networking. Most people are going to be spectators, and they're going to be there to look around, watch video, read ratings and reviews, and they're never going to give you anything. And that's these people right here. I would argue they're the most important people, because if you have a product and people don't want to interact with you on it, they at least read how other people have interacted. The critics are the ones that you have to worry about, because these are the ones that are going to be negative or positive on your interactions with them and how things went good or how things went poorly with their work with you in the organization. So that's available on page 232 if you want to check that out. So it's important that social media marketing should be two ways. It's not advertising, it's not a one-way communication. You have to make sure that you're using this as a way to communicate with the people that might work in your product environment. So on page 233 is the different requirements and behaviors for marketing communications. Try to look specifically at this notion of active partnerships. I think that's a big idea, because when you're doing this, if you can develop a relationship with a third party who can enhance your business, that's doing the same thing you're doing, that's always a positive, and that's always a major benefit. So what are things that you can be using? You can use free tools that'll help promote sites, and a lot of that comes in finding people to retweet your status or post something on Facebook for you. You can have different tracking softwares that'll give you monitoring reputations, and some of them are good, some of them are bad. But then you're going to find that the paid platforms have much more in terms of what they're able to do and what they're able to provide for you in your business environment. So marketers engage their customers in many different ways. We're going to look at some of these as we're talking about how this can help benefit you on social media. So any platform that a conversation can take place is going to help you interact with others. But I would argue that blogs are probably the most effective. If you have a website and you have a social media component, having a blog space where once a week, once every couple weeks, depending on the scope and nature of your business, somebody's posting something about your organization, about the products and services they received, would be good. And you commenting and engaging with the customers is going to make them feel like they belong, and it's going to help you retain them. Twitter's quick and dirty, it's fast, it's effective, but it's something that you really can't get into depth on like you could on a blog or you could on Facebook. So why do you want to do this? I think you want to do this because it gives you credibility, and it gives you the opportunity to actually talk with your customers. I value this. I honestly believe this is probably the most important chapter in this textbook if you are planning on developing a business, because you can increase and promote your business right now using these channels and get established in credibility much quicker than you can by by doing it in traditional manners and traditional media ways. So, Twitter. One of the things that Twitter does that's effective, I think, is that if there's a positive interaction and somebody retweets the status, that's great. If you can somehow get a celebrity to follow your business and get them to retweet something, you're hitting an audience without doing any sort of advertising that never might have been available. You can use different employee interaction, meaning people's personal accounts can be used to interact with the business account. I do note this because I think this is important. The use has to be secure. The last thing you want is somebody to hack into your account and there to be an issue on something that's posted, and that promotes and puts your business in a negative light. So try to remember all of this and see that Twitter could be a benefit, especially if you can find a way to partner with somebody who has a lot of followers and who can promote your business. So any social networking works, and but the question is, how many can you use and how many should you support? My argument is you should always consider Facebook and Twitter and have a blog on your website, but different people are in different industries. You might know of something that's very industry specific that you might want to use to promote. For example, in the education classes I teach, I encourage every single one of my teacher preparation candidates to join Pinterest. Pinterest is something that might benefit your business, but I know for education people, it's awesome because it goes over lots of different ideas, projects that you can use in class. So that's one to consider. So, taking a look, again, we have another graph that I'll note in the book. This is on page 9.9. This goes on product reviews. Notice right here that Facebook users and experts are who people care about for product reviews, and they rely on customer ratings and reviews in order to decide what they want to do. I think that's a very big idea, and I think it's important that you keep that in mind when you're looking at ways to promote your business. So the sharing part, having all these icons would probably drive somebody batty, and I agree with that. Having a few to connect your product to people is probably better because then they're more likely to interact and engage with them if there are only a couple of social media icons that are available. So if you want to look at another example, our book talks about the Pickens plan, which is through Boone Pickens. This is available on page 239 in our textbook. This is showing you basically how a nonprofit organization can be used to build brand recognition as well, which I think is important and matters. So, looking again, page 240, showing you, essentially what can you actually do and what can you actually learn through using social business. There are courses now in platforms that will teach you how to effectively do analytics on social networking and how to post and how to get involved in social networking. This is huge. If you are an expert on Facebook or Twitter and spend all of your time on there, why wouldn't you try to get into an industry like this and teach people how to effectively use it? You could make a lot of money. There are opportunities here right now that aren't going to be there in 3 or 4 years when everybody perfects this. People using social media for personal use, we're kind of at the point where that's been perfected, but at business use, there's still a lot of ways that it can grow, and this is something that you might want to consider doing. So it's an opportunity for you that you might want to look at. So, looking again at Nokia's vision, if this is something that interests you, this is available also in our textbook on page 241, looking at the notion of continuous engagement versus only a couple of things once in a while. Nokia says it's important to have a campaign that's constantly going and connecting to other people. This also gives you the idea that continuously disseminating your message to your clients is probably your most effective way of promoting your business. So what do you do? What should you, what are the credible ways of doing this? And you can look at this. This is available on page 242, but I do want to talk about this. You're paid media platforms are probably your best, because these are your traditional